The school year is almost here and parents have been waiting to find out what plans are in store for next month. Huntsville City Schools has announced their plan for the school year and they're offering a choice to families on how students will learn. Our Sydney STALLWORTH breaks down the options.
For parents of students in Huntsville City Schools, you have a tough choice to make. You have to decide if your kid will be returning to the classroom or staying home and learning virtually.
Right now what we know is that we have that stable option, which is the Huntsville Virtual Academy. And with the traditional option, we have built in a staggered and a remote learning.
The plan is subject to change depending on the trend of COVID-19 cases. For students whose parents decide to pick the traditional method of learning, they'll see some changes in school buildings, from required masking on buses and school property to socially distanced lunches, even potential plexiglass installations in group work settings.
For example, if you had a class of 20 kids at 9 feet social distance, that's 3 feet personal space, and then 6 feet apart, that gets you 11 kids plus the teacher in the classroom.
Because there would be limited capacity and in-person classroom plans can change based on COVID numbers, leaders are urging parents to consider at-home learning.
We are really encouraging parents to look carefully at the virtual option.
Teachers have spent time familiarizing themselves with new online learning software. Changes have even been made within the special education division to accommodate students as well.
If we have a virtual student that the family feels like needs to come in for one-to-one face-to-face therapy, we certainly can accommodate that as well.
Regardless of which choice parents make, students can still do all extracurricular activities. The deadline to register for the Virtual Academy is July 20th, and this day is important because it'll help officials have an idea of how many kids should be returning back to school and make some tough staffing decisions. Putting the Valley first, Sydney STALLWORTH, WZDX News.